Dear friends, welcome to the PowerPoint presentation of Physics for Class 12. In this session, we will study about electrostatic charges and associated topics like conductors and insulators, methods of charging, properties of charges, Coulomb's law, and finally superposition principle. So I welcome you all once again. Please listen to the points discussed carefully and note down all important points as these will help you definitely in your examinations. Welcome you all once again. First chapter is electric charge. Electrostatics deals with the forces, fields and potential arising from charges. Static means anything that does not move or anything that is stationary or change with the time. Some of the examples of electric charges are sparking from woolen or synthetic cloths, which we have seen in our everyday life many times. Another important example is lightning during thunderstorms. So, lightning is also due to electric charges. And sometimes we also observe shocks while holding a door handle or a car door or iron rod, etc. So these are all few examples of electric charges. Electric charge. Charge is the property associated with matter due to which it produces and experiences electric and magnetic effects. The excess or deficiency of electrons in a body gives the concept of charge. Charge at rest is called electrostatic charge. Thus, the intrinsic property of a matter due to which electric and magnetic effects happen is the charge. Types of charges. There are two types of charges: positive charge, which is due to deficiency of electrons as compared to proton. For example, glass rods, woolen cloth, dry hair, cat skin are all examples of positive charges. So, there is a deficiency of electrons in all these positive charges. Negative charges. It is the excess of electrons as compared to protons. Example: silk, cloth, rubber shoes, amber, plastic object, comb and ebonite. So positive charge means deficiency of electrons. Negative charge means excess of electrons. The SI unit of charge is ampere second or coulomb. Generally, we use coulomb and its dimensions are A, T within brackets. Coulomb is defined as the charge passing a particular point in 1 second when there is a current of 1 ampere at that point. That means Coulomb is a charge. 1 coulomb is a charge passing through a particular point in 1 second when there is a current of 1 ampere. So we can write this relationship as dq is equal to I dt, where I is the current, dt is the time and dq is the charge. Coulomb is also defined in terms of unit of current, the ampere. So 1 coulomb is the charge that when placed at a distance of 1 meter from another charge of the same magnitude in air or vacuum, it experiences an electrical force of 9 into 10 to the power of 9 newtons. That means coulomb in terms of unit current is the ampere A. So 1 coulomb is the charge that when placed at a distance of another charge. In this case, there are two charges of 1 coulomb each, separated by a distance 1 meter, and these when experience a force of 9 into 10 to the power of 9 newtons, it is a coulomb. Practical units of charges. Ampere hour is also used as a practical unit of charge. It is equal to 3600 coulombs. Sometimes we also use Faraday. 1 Faraday is equal to 96,500 coulombs. And we also use quanta of charge. 1 coulomb is equal to 6.25 into 1018 electrons. So, quanta of charge is nothing but number of electrons into the charge. So, 1 coulomb is equal to 6.25 into 1018 electrons. 1 absolute coulomb equals 10 coulombs. Having studied about the charges in section 1.1, let us discuss about conductors and insulators. Some substances readily allow passage of electricity through them, others do not. Like metals allow electricity to pass through them, whereas plastics and insulators do not. Those substances which allow electricity to pass through them are called conductors. They have electric charges, generally electrons, that are comparatively free to move inside the material. Metals, human beings and animal bodies and earth are good conductors. Most of the non-metals like glass, porcelain, plastic, nylon, wood offer high resistance to the passage of electricity through them. They are called insulators. So, the materials which allow electricity to pass easily are conductors, and the materials which do not allow current to pass easily are non-metals or insulators. Most of the substances fall into one of these two classes as stated above, that is, they are either conductors or insulators. When some charge is transferred to a conductor, it readily gets distributed over the entire surface of the conductor. In contrast, if some charge is put on an insulator, it stays at the same place. So, when you connect a material or a good conductor to a source of electricity or a current like battery, current and charges get distributed over the entire surface of the conductor. Whereas, in the case of insulators, it does not pass and it remains on the surface of the insulator. This property of materials tells you why a nylon or a plastic comb gets electrified on combing dry hair on rubbing, but a metal article like spoon does not. That is, we have observed that when we rub a comb against our hair, then it gets charged, whereas a metallic spoon or anything, a material thing does not get charged. Thus, the charges on metal leak through our body to ground as both are conductors of electricity. When we bring a charged body in contact with the earth, all excess charges on the body disappear by causing a momentary current to pass to the ground through the connecting conductor such as our body. That means when we are holding a spoon and rub against hair or any other current source, it does not get charged, but it allows the current to flow through that spoon and our body and goes to the ground. This process of sharing the charges with earth is called grounding or earthing. That means the charges on the spoon, whatever it is discharged through our body, and this process of touching the earth and grounding is due to the good conducting property of the material, and the process of sharing the charges with earth is called grounding or earthing. Every earthing provides a safety measure for electrical circuits and appliances. In our houses, we have seen that electrical circuits and appliances are grounded through earthing. A thick metal plate is buried deep into the earth and thick wires are drawn from this plate, and these are used in buildings for the purpose of earthing near the mains supply. Please see in your houses that a thick metal plate is buried near the electricity supply meter, and it is that metal plate is buried deep into the earth and thick wires are connected to this plate, and these buildings are earthed near the mains supply. The electric wiring in our houses has three wires: live wire, neutral wire and earth wire. The first two wires, that is live and neutral, carry the current from power station, and the third is earthed by connecting it to the buried metal plate. Metallic bodies of the electric appliances such as iron, refrigerator and TV etc. are connected to this earth wire. When a fault occurs or a live wire touches the metallic body, the charge flows to the earth without damaging the appliance and without causing any injury to the humans. This would have otherwise been unavoidable since the human body is a good conductor of electricity. So, earthing is a safety measure for humans, appliances as well as buildings. Methods of charging. There are three methods of charging: friction, conduction and induction. Friction. If we rub one body with another body, electrons are transferred. Transfer of electrons takes place from lower work function to a higher work function. Clouds are charged by friction. Number 2. Conduction. The process of transfer of charge by contact of two bodies is known as conduction. In this case, the charging body as well as uncharged body are touching one another. That means, if a charged body is put in contact with uncharged body, then the uncharged body becomes charged due to transfer of electrons from one body to another. The charged body loses some of its electrons. The flow of electrons depends on the potential difference of the two bodies. Positive charge flows from a higher potential to a lower potential, while negative charge flows from a lower potential to higher potential. The third method of charging is induction. If a charged body is brought near a metallic neutral body, this body will attract opposite charge and repel similar charge present in the neutral body. As a result, one side becomes negative and the other side becomes positive. This process is called electrostatic induction. Inducing body neither gains nor loses any charge. The nature of induced charge is opposite to that of inducing charge. Induction takes place only in bodies conducting or non-conducting, not in particles. Please see figure A. Here there are two neutral bodies A and B which are required to be charged. In figure B, we are bringing a charged body or a charged conductor positive with positive charges on its surface. So, the charged body Q is brought near the cylinder A. Because of induction, opposite charge is induced in the body A. And because negative charge is present and it is in touch with the body B, positive charges are accumulated in the body B. So, because of opposite the nature of charges, one side becomes negative charge and the other side becomes positive. That is, A becomes negative and B becomes positive, and this is the this process is called electrostatic induction. In figure D, that is the last figure, we remove the positively charged rod and A remains negative and B remains positive. Thus, the originally uncharged body or a neutral bodies A and B are now negatively charged and positively charged as shown in the figure. Properties of charging. The first property is regarding additivity of charges. If a system contains 2-point charges Q1 and Q2, the total charge of the system is obtained simply by adding algebraically Q1 and Q2. That is, the charges add up like real numbers or they are scalar like mass of a body. That means additive Q1 and Q2 add algebraically. If a system contains n number of charges, that is Q1, Q2, Q3 up to Q9, then the total charge of the system is Q1 plus Q2 plus Q3 plus etc. up to Qn. This is called additivity property of charges. The next property is charge is transferable. If a body is put in contact with another body, the charge can be transferred from one body to another body. This is called conduction. That is, through conduction and by physical contact between two bodies, the charge can be transferred from one body to another body. The third property is charge is always associated with the mass. Charge cannot exist without a mass, though mass can exist without a charge. In charging, the mass of the body changes. When a positive charge is given to a body, the mass decreases, whereas a negative charge is given to a body, the mass increases. So, charge is always associated with mass. When a positive charge is given to a body, the mass decreases and negative charge increases the mass. Fourth property is charge is invariant. Charge is on a body, charge on a body does not change whatever may be its speed. That means if a charge is moving with a speed, it does not change the charge. The charge remains constant. For example, electron has a specific charge at rest. When electrons are accelerated, the charge remains same. So the charge is invariant and the charge remains same whether it is at rest or whether it is moving. Attraction and repulsion of charges. Here there are two types of charges, positive charge and negative charge. Similar charges repel. So, between the two charges Q1 and Q2, if both are positive, they repel, and in case both are negative, they repel. So, the like charges repel one another. Dissimilar charges attract. That means if Q1 is positive and Q1 is negative, they are attracted with one another. Similarly, if Q1 is negative and Q2 is positive, they are attracted. Electric charge is conserved. In an isolated system, the total charge does not change with time. Though individual charge may change, that is, charges can neither be created nor destroyed, but can be transferred from one object to another. So, this property is called electric charge is conserved. In an isolated system, the total charge does not change with time. Charges can neither be created nor destroyed. Conservation of charges is also found to be hold good for all types of reactions, either chemical or nuclear. No exception to this rule has been found. That means whether it is a chemical reaction or atomic reaction or a nuclear reaction or electrical action, charges remain same, does not change with time. The seventh property is electric charge is quantized. The quantization of charge is the property by which all free electrons are the integral multiple of a basic unit of charge represented by E. Here, the quantization of charge says that they are the integral multiple of a basic unit charge E, and the charge of a body is given by Q equals Ne, where Q is the charge, N is the integral multiple, and E is the basic charge. So, N can be a positive or a negative integer like plus or minus 1, comma, plus or minus 2 or plus or minus 3 is a whole number. N is a whole number. E is a constant called elementary charge. In this case, the value of E is 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 90 coulomb. The quantum of charge is the charge that an electron or a proton carries. So, the value of E is taken from the charge of an electron, which is equal to 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19 coulomb. Charge on a proton is minus of the charge on electron. As we know, the charge of an electron is minus. So, charge of a proton is positive. So, minus into minus becomes plus. So, charge on a proton is also equal to 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19 coulomb. In physics, we come across different processes of energy distribution, and all these are due to the charges. Charges are at rest, charges are moving at the constant velocity, and charges are also moving with different velocities. That means some are stationary charges, some are moving with constant velocity, and some are moving with different velocities or changing velocity. When charge is at rest, that means the velocity is 0, there is an electric field. In this chapter, we are going to study about electric field, and there is no magnetic field and there is no radiation of energy. When a charge is moving with a constant velocity, that is V is equal to constant, then there is an electric field as well as magnetic field, but there is no radiation. This property of moving charges with constant velocity we will study in chapters connected with electric field and magnetic field. Finally, when a charge is moving with a varying velocity, that is V is equal to varying, then there are electric field, magnetic field, and there is radiation also. We will also study about radiation or electromagnetic waves in the chapters of this year's syllabus. Let us study Coulomb's law. Coulomb's law is very important law. It states that the electrostatic force between 2-point charges is directly proportional to the product of the magnitude of two charges and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between charges and acts along the straight line joining two charges. Please see the figure given on the right hand side. In this figure, there are two charges Q1 and Q2 separated by a distance r. Let F be the electrostatic force between the 2 point charges Q1 and Q2 at rest and separated by a distance r as shown in the figure. So, Coulomb's law states that the force F is proportional to the product of Q1, Q2. And the second part of Coulomb's law says F is also inversely proportional to the square of the distance, that is numerically F is proportional to 1 over r square. And the third part of the law says the direction of the field acts along the straight line joining Q1 and Q2. So, F is a vector and substituting the constant of proportionality as k, F is equal to k into Q1 Q2 divided by r square, where k equals Coulomb's constant. Numerically, the value of k is given by the formula k is equal to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught, and its value is 8.99 into 10 to the power of 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb square. Epsilon naught is the permittivity constant of free space. The value of epsilon naught, the permittivity constant in free space, is equal to 8.85 into 10 to the power of minus 12 Coulomb square per Newton meter square. If the bodies are placed in a dielectric medium, then the value of epsilon changes, and it is given by epsilon is equal to epsilon naught epsilon r, where epsilon r is the relative permittivity of the medium. So, let us repeat Coulomb's law. The statement: the electrostatic force between 2 point charges is directly proportional to the magnitude of two charges, that is F vector F is proportional to Q1 Q2 and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between charges, that is F is inversely proportional to 1 over r square. So, substituting the proportionality by a constant, we get F is equal to k into Q1 Q2 divided by r square, where k equals Coulomb's constant. The value of k is 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught equals 8.99 into 10 to the power of 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb square. Epsilon naught is the permittivity constant of free space. Its value is 8.85 into 10 to the power of minus 12 Coulomb square per Newton meter square. Epsilon r is the relative permittivity of the medium when charges are placed in the medium other than vacuum or air. Coulomb's law can also be expressed in vector form. Please see the figure on the right hand side. Here Q1 and Q2 are two charges. separated by a distance r. In the figure, there are two forces F12, which is a force on Q1 due to Q2, and it is given by Coulomb's law. K equals K into Q1 Q2 divided by R square into R12 hat. R12 is a unit vector in the direction Q1 to Q2. Similarly, there is another force F21, which is on charge Q2 due to Q1. That is, F21 is a force on Q2 due to Q1, and its value is K into Q1 Q2 divided by R square into R21, where R21 is a unit vector from Q2 to Q1. In the previous vector form of Coulomb's law, we had direct distance between Q1 and Q2. That is, Q1 and Q2 were separated by a distance r. Whereas in many cases, the distances are given from the origin as shown in the figure 2. Here, the charge Q1 is located at a distance r1 from origin, and Q2 is located at a distance r2 from the origin as shown in the figure. So, we can find the direct distance between Q1 and Q2 vectorially, which is given by R1 minus R2. So, Coulomb's law in terms of position vector can be written as force F12 equals K into modulus Q1 Q2 divided by modulus R1 minus R2 whole cube into R1 minus R2. Superposition principle. Force on any charge due to a number of other charges is the vector sum of all the forces on that charge due to other charges taken one at a time. Please see the figure given on the right hand side. Here there are three charges Q1, Q2, Q3. Q1 is located at a distance r1 from the origin O. Q2 is located at a distance r2 from the origin O. Similarly, Q3 is located at a distance r3. Now we are required to find the effect of Q2 on Q1 and the effect of Q3 on Q1. To calculate the effect, we should always know the direct distance between Q2 and Q1, that is vector R12, Q3 and Q1, that is vector R13. The superposition principle says force on any charge, that is force on Q1 due to other charges, that is due to Q2 and the charge Q3, is the vector sum of all the forces on that charge due to other charges. That is, force on Q1 is the vector sum of force due to Q2 as well as the force due to Q3, and we can write in the formula force F is equal to vector F12 plus F13 plus F14. In the figure only two charges are shown, Q2 and Q3. There is no Q4 in the figure, whereas even if Q4 is present, its effect can be added. So, if there are number of charges up to n, then the force becomes F is equal to F12 plus F13 plus F14 plus etc. up to F1n. Force is a two-body interaction, that is, the electrical force is independent of presence or absence of other charges, and so the principle of superposition is valid. Whereas nuclear force is a many-body attraction, the principle of superposition is not valid for nuclear force. We will study about nuclear force in chapter number 10, 11 and 12 of 12th standard physics. When a number of charges are interacting, the total force on the given charge is the vector sum of forces exerted on it by all charges individually. So, when Q2 and Q3 are interacting, the total force on the given charge Q1 is the vector sum of forces exerted on it by Q2 and Q3. Mathematically, it is written as F is equal to K into Q1 Q2 divided by R12 square into R12 vector plus K into Q1 Q3 divided by R13 square plus etc. up to K times Q1 Qn divided by R1n square. The summation form can also be written as F is equal to K times Q1 into sigma I is equal to 2 to I equals n into Qi divided by Ri square into unit vector R1I. Please note the sigma sign starts with 2. So, superposition principle, force on any charge due to a number of other charges is the vector sum of all the forces on that charge due to the other charges taken one at a time. Some important points regarding charges and electric field. Coulomb's law is based on physical observations and not derivable from any other concept. This law is analogous to Newton's law of gravitation, which we studied in the previous classes. So, Newton's law of gravitation says the force equals G into m1 m2 divided by r square, where m1 and m2 are masses and r is the distance. Gravitational force is scalar, whereas electric force is vector. Electric force between charged particles is much stronger than gravitational force. Electric force can be attractive or repulsive, while gravitational force is always attractive. As we have seen, like charges repel and unlike charges attract, whereas gravitational force is always attractive. Electric force depends on the nature of medium between charges, while gravitational force does not. So, in case of electric force, the value of epsilon naught, that is permittivity constant, changes due to the nature of medium. Electric force is an action-reaction pair. So, always electric force is between two charged particles. Hence, there is action and reaction between at least two charges. Electric force is conservative. That is, when we move a point charge around a closed path, the work done is zero. Conductors. Conductors are materials in which a significant number of charged particles, that is electrons, are free to move. The property of conductor is such that the electrons are able to move freely. Insulators. Insulators are non-conductor materials in which the electrons or positive charges are not able to move freely. When a charge moves through a material, we say that an electric current exists in the material. That means in conductors, electrons move freely and that constitutes an electric current.